It's the Anthology Special! Welcome to your weekly dose of horror news and fun. This is episode 19 of TerrorVision Horror Podcast. I'm your host, Dan McGuinness, and joining me as always is my co-host, Jennifer the Dream Warrior Strand. Together, we are two people with a love of horror and feel the burn of our obsolete Blockbuster memberships. You can catch us weekly on all major podcasting services and on the YouTube. Jennifer, how's your week been, eh?
The YouTube. My week's been pretty good. I'm still playing Tony Hawk. I was a little bit sick because everything I eat is a gamble, so I got pretty sick. And I went to the dentist today, and now I'm going to be like forking out a bunch of money for the next couple of weeks.
Don't you have dentist cover?
I do, but apparently it's not great dentist cover.
Oh, well, all right.
But that's okay. That's okay. My teeth aren't falling out, so we're all good.
When you say you're sick, you have to have a jippy tummy all the time, don't you?
Yeah, I'm kind of a bit like you, so I'm like really not meant to eat so many things. It's a huge list, and I'm still trying to like add to that as to what I can and cannot eat. So every day's a gamble.
Yeah, right. I take like probiotics every morning, and they helped heaps because I used to get IBS. IBS, is that what it's called? It's all about
yes,
yeah.
it is.
And it went away, and then I stopped them recently to see if it was all bullshit, and it came straight back. So I was just like, well, that's a good test. So you might want to like lock into them for a while, and it might make you feel a bit better. Because apparently they've done tests on heaps of that probiotic crap is bullshit, but like for IBS, it's the one thing it works on. Anyhow, what have I been doing?
Yeah.
I remade Hack the Dino from the ground up this week. I decided I was heaps busy, so I decided to bring on another project and make myself even busier. And I rebuilt the whole show, all the scenes, all the looks, all the how it works, everything. Just did it from scratch, and we did it live. We concentrate now on Twitch and Patreon. Fuck YouTube, because YouTube's too hard to work out. We had a really good Patreon following, so we're like, let's give that 100%. So now, like, you know, our Patreons are. Their names are scrolled across the bottom of the screen. They're constantly, you know, like it's all this instant gratification, and like we push that as much as we can, and it's worked really well. The show's completely live. We chat with the chat now and stuff like that, and we play games live now as well, like in the show.
Ooh,
so when we review them, so that one of us is playing it while the other one's reviewing it, kind of thing. So yeah, we're doing that. Check it out if you like video games.
Well, do it. Yeah.
All right, let's move straight into our homework section. So every week, Jennifer and I set ourselves 3 horror movies to watch, and then we review them together the following week. But change in plan, because I have a baby and a job and everything, and I'm losing time all the time. We're going to cut it down to 2 movies we watch a week. This shouldn't affect the show very much. We'll probably just talk a bit more about news and stuff like that, but it should be fine. But yeah, we're knocking it down to 2. I've already chose my 2 for this week, and we rate them on our the TerrorVision rating system, which I'm going to quickly go through now. So starting from the best rating, which is A for awesome, a movie that everyone should watch. B is a beer and chicken wings movie, like group movie where you hang out with your dude bros. F is a fun and dumb film, you know, the ones that are just good and fun, but they're probably not going to win any, quality awards. A C is a classic that's worth a watch, and a G is it was good for its time, but it hasn't held up now. A J is a Gen special, meaning, you know, a pure Gen movie, and a D is a Dan special, which is a pure me movie. A W is the whatever, like boring shit. And then S is actually shit, avoid, and then the double F is the fucking fucked reward. Like the no movie that should ever have gotten made. Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
God.
Like Texas Chainsaw Next Generation. Oh my God.
It's very true. So I would like to begin by apologizing to Dan, because I thought, hey, I like to have a theme to everything I pick, and I chose anthology movies. And do you know how hard it is to watch 3 anthology movies? Pretty fucking hard.
It is, because anthology movies are so long. Like all of these movies were over 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And you're just watching, and then you realize you have to make notes about every tiny movie within itself. And it's just like, oh my God, this is like doing we have theoretically watched 15 movies this week nearly.
Yeah, and I'm tired. I'm tired and just There's a lot to say and not a lot to say at the same time.
Yeah, I was like lucky to even get through this stuff. I was like having to set aside time and not do other stuff to get through these films. So that's another reason why we kind of toned it down to 2 films. It's and we can just get deeper into those films. We don't have to rush along,
true.
and we can talk up a storm. So, anthology special, get ready, guys and girls, because this is going to be one hell of a talk.
Oh.
So first film that we watched was Creepshow from 1982. Director George A. Romero. Screenplay by Stephen King. Screenplay? Really? Do you want to read the synopsis, Jen? The tagline first. So I think we should announce.
The most fun...
Oh, wait. So you should say, this is the tagline, and then say the synopsis, because I reckon we should just do it.
Okay, because I love a tagline.
Yeah.
So the most fun you'll ever have, being scared. Inspired by the EC comics of the 1950s, George A. Romero and Stephen King bring 5 tales of terror to the screen.
Oh, 5 tales of terror. Terror is a pretty loose word for these films, eh?
It is. 5 tales of camp, glorious satire and ridiculousness. Yes.
Yeah.
Terror, no.
Creepshow 2 has like one of my, which is weird because I'm about to rag on Anthology a bit, but like Creepshow 2 has one of my favourite shorts, which is The Raft. If you guys, I love that one. So the first one. So obviously, all these anthologies have an overarching story which links all their stories together. If you know what I mean. Where Creepshow uses it as like a kid with a comic book, and it kind of flicks through the comic book, and it's like the stories he was reading. They all have that theme. These anthology films of like an overarching story. Actually, did they all have that?
They did, yes.
Cool.
So with this one, it was a young boy who's reading his horror comics, and his dad, played by a mustacheless Tom Atkins.
Yeah. Wrong.
No, I didn't like that. No, thank you. So he doesn't agree that his kid should be reading comic books. Smacks him around a little bit and throws it in the trash.
Yeah, he's a big bad dad, like.
He's a piece of shit, yeah.
Seeing Tom Atkins as a bad guy, I didn't like that, eh?
Yeah,
I like him because I know he's such a nice dude. Like, it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, he's Grandpa Atkins. Like, no Tom Atkins.
Yeah.
Also, it was Stephen King's kid too. So.
Oh, was it? That was Joe Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, that's his pen name that he uses to draw his comic books. Write his comic books. I like. Straight away, the Creepshow one, being the oldest one that we watched, had the most amount of style and ooze to it, eh? Like, it had all the, because the theme was the comic, it had all that, like, kind of comic paneling, it did that in every
I loved that.
Yeah,
the comic paneling, the animation.
Yeah. It had so every story had at least one time when it split into split screens with a comic gutter down the middle, as if it was running through the comic, or it would put like a vignette of like drawn vignette around bits and pieces, and they heavily used red and pink. Was it
the red and blues is like so bright.
Yeah,
red, blue,
and it's whenever
pink.
the horror happens. So they just basically had a red light shining in from one side and a blue light shining in from the other. No explanation. It didn't matter. And I think that was them trying to create a more comic vibe to it, as in, the comic coloring. Yeah. And straight away, that stood this one out straight, as in over the rest. I was just like, that's such a cool vibe. I haven't even seen that done like in any film for at all kind of thing.
No,
it's not the best idea and it wouldn't work all the time, but it really worked for this, don't you think?
It did. I think it did. The stories as well, I think, compared to the other 2 that we've watched, I think this one probably had an overall more enjoyable set of stories. I don't know whether or not you agree with that.
All anthologies, there's some I don't like.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like, I just like, a lot of them I would just be like, whatever. So let's get into them, because there's a lot of these we have to get through. So number 1, the story was called Father's Day. What one was this? I get confused straight away.
That's how many we've watched this week. Okay, so Father's Day, they're sitting around this wealthy family, and they're talking about their great aunt who is on her way for Father's Day. She's a bit of a lush too. I think she's great. And the idea, they're telling the story about how she was left to look after the father as he was starting to grow old, and it was on Father's Day, and it's just him like, where's my cake, where's my cake, it's Father's, where's my cake, and she ends up murdering him. And so she comes back to the house every year on Father's Day, and I think she has this cathartic kind of drunken stupor, and she talks at the gravestone and tries to make herself feel a bit better.
Yeah, basically just abuses the corpse.
Yeah, but this time something happens.
We're not going to, like, pussyfoot around this. He just comes back. Like, and you know what? Like, so many of these Creepshow ones are just the person coming back. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it even happened in Creepshow 2 with the hitchhiker. Do you remember that one? Thanks for the ride, lady. Like, but yeah, and they all have like a catchphrase. Like, he had like, where's my cake?
Where's my cake?
The cake is a lie. And the same with like there was the other one where the people got drowned. They had their line when they came back as well. So it's basically Creepshow is just about people coming back, kind of.
Yes.
Some of them.
Yeah.
I actually thought this one was really weak. I'd completely forgotten about it because I thought the characters were like, there's so much in this one. There was so much exposition on the family, and it didn't matter. You know what I mean?
No.
They weren't even
None
really
of this matters.
In it at all. It has this. The first half of it is a massive conversation between these aristocratic families and a new person coming into it, and it just had no relevance to the story in the end. It was just, it could have started with her being drunk talking to the grave.
Yes, it could have. Instead, Ed Harris has a terrible, terrible dance scene and just like falls into the grave and sits there and watches as one of the gravestones just very, very, very slowly falls on him.
It didn't just slowly. It was like, it was him in the grave laying there yelling, going, oh no! And then it would show the grave slowly just move a tiny bit, and then him again going, uh-oh! He had like so much time to get out of the way. But no, I think that was fine. Like,
yeah. I like to think that, so Tom Savini, so it should be noted that Tom Savini had his hands all over the effects and whatever for this film. So all the practical effects from the old man crawling out of the grave kind of reminded me a little bit of Return of the Living Dead with Tarman.
Yeah. I remember Tarman. So Tarman is like he's known as one of the greatest looking zombies of all time. Like, it's flawless.
100%. He is iconic. Absolutely iconic. But yeah, so he had this kind of vibe to him, and he's crawling out, and just the raspy voice of "Where's my cake?" and
Where's my cake?
Where's my cake? And stumbling into the house, and the scene where he just like snaps her neck back, it like alone for like 1982. That was incredible.
Yeah, that was a good. Yeah,
like,
good.
Just twist it around.
Did this one have Savini in it as well? He was the garbage man. Yes.
Correct. Yes, he was. He was the garbage man.
He was in the overarching. He was in the over. What are they called? Like over stories or whatever.
They're the wraparound. I think.
Is that what they're called? Wraparounds.
Yeah, the wraparound.
Yeah.
Yeah. They all have their own sort of. They play their little part. So, yeah, I agree. This one probably was one of the weak. Actually, probably was the weakest one.
Yeah. And we have to move on. There's so many more.
We do. There's so many.
So the second one's called Meteor, or it's actually called The Lonesome Death of Geordie Verrell.
Yeah.
In some places.
Yes.
Straight away, a meteor comes down, lands, and a redneck goes up to it, played by none other than Stephen King. Oh, Stephen.
Who should not act.
Yeah, he does. Actually, I enjoyed this one. Hey, this was the shortest one.
Yeah, he was very endearing, and he was playing it up like a big old redneck, like Looney Tunes character almost.
Yeah, he was very animated, and he was like, yeah. And like the meteor comes down, it splits open, and he gets like this liquid on him, which he calls meteor shit.
Meteor shit.
Meteor shit. Like he's got like, his name's Geordie Verrell. He's got overalls on. He's got like the fucking buck tooth and shit, and he's like, yeah, he's gone full redneck. He gets his meteor stuff on his fingers. He has delusions of grandeur. He keeps imagining himself, coming in with the meteor, getting money for it in his little bucket and stuff like that. And So he takes the meteor in, but unbeknownst to him is the meteor is a plant-based meteor with a meteor with a fast-growing alien spores on it.
Yeah.
And so he starts, little like shoots come out of his fingers, and also where the meteor's landed, plant life starts growing out from that at a rapid rate, which I kind of liked all this, the look of this one.
It was very pretty. I really liked that one as well. I'm like, yeah, I'm down for this one. Like this.
With the green light,
everywhere.
with the plants, they slowly putting it more and more over everything, and the lighting that they use. I think they obviously a lot of green. They're very ham with their. As I said, they wanted to do the comic look, so they were fine with like just making unrealistic lighting, which I think gave this film a real standout look. Like, I can't argue with it. Like, none of the other films had anything like that, but yeah. And then the plants obviously take over. Start growing over him, start growing over his house. Yeah. He kind of passes out and then wakes up and he's total plant man. And then he just grabs a shotgun and commits suicide. The end.
Sure. Yes. That one, I found that there was absolutely no way around that. That I think that was probably the only way they could have ended the story.
Yeah.
And then of course it cuts to the news and weather where they're like, oh, it's going to be a rainy one, which is going to make everything as green as everything.
And the world's over.
Great. Because of course, like he jumps in the bath and covers himself in obviously water.
Oh yeah, and that increases it. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that bit. But yeah, that one was the only one to me had a bit of doom to it. You know what I mean? I was actually like, oh shit, I'm a bit worried about. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way out of this. Oh, I feel a bit sick.
Yeah. Yeah. No, everything else is a little bit more like everything's just wrapped up in a neat little package, except for that one.
Yeah, and the next one was. Something to tide you over, and tide as in the tide. So this is where they got their big guns out. They get Ted Danson and Leslie Nielsen.
Now Leslie Nielsen has always been old. Like we were watching this, so this was 1982, and of course most people would remember him from Dracula Dead and Loving It and the Naked Gun movie. And but that's like, is that late 80s, early 90s, or mid 90s?
Naked Guns were 90s, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they were. I couldn't tell you. But, even we were watching it and Liz just turns to me, she's like, has he always been old? I'm like, yeah. Even when he was in Forbidden Planet, he was old.
I just think he's got white hair, and that just makes him look old forever. And now he's really old.
Yeah. I think he's dead, but yes.
So this one is like weird. I found this one like not horror. This was just torture porn.
This was a big old thrillery kind of one. So Leslie Nielsen rocks up at Ted Danson's house and is basically just being a bit weird, and you don't really know why they're there. And he's like, well, I've got your wife. I'm sorry, what? He's like, yes, I've got your wife. You need to come with me. He drives him out to the beach and basically like, oh, your wife, she's down there. No, she's not. Now you got to dig your grave.
It wasn't a grave. Yeah, bury yourself up. Bury yourself up to your neck.
Up to your neck.
Yeah, and then he did the same to the wife down the beach, and then he sets up a video camera so they can both watch each other die as the tide comes in, which is pretty sickening. And then, of course,
it was very menacing. Yeah,
they die, and guess what happens? They come back.
No!
They have a line as well. What's their line? It's like,
I don't know. It was very, very gargled.
Yeah, it was like, wait for the tide to come in, or something like that. And then, of course, somehow they bury him up to his head and do the same thing to him. So I guess what comes around goes around. He also makes VHSs. It implies that he's done this to 100 people. He's just killed people and then watched them die, and then he re-watches it over again. So he's a pretty gross dude.
He is a pretty gross dude. I kind of like this one as well. It had this little bit of psychedelic kind of vibe to it, closer to the end where they're coming to get him. So I don't know if you noticed that they were sort of rolling in on the fog, which means that they didn't come up on all of his video cameras.
Yeah.
So he's looking there and nothing's happening, but they're in the house. Also, the way that they were speaking, it must have been recorded either underwater or them with like liquid in their mouth, because it sounded like they were drowning still.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Which I thought was a nice little touch.
And they were like zombies, but they were like bloated zombies. Like they'd been in water for, a couple of days and gone all bloated. And I was like, yeah, that looks sick. They had seaweed on them. Yeah, like, yeah. Nice.
I liked that one.
And then the next one was called The Crate, which is the only one I actually could remember from this beforehand. Which
Fluffy.
Oh my god! Now this had some long-winded, this was way longer than it needed to be. This one, did you find that?
I did. I found that this one dragged on so much, and it really didn't need to.
No,
but they might have been trying to
there was nothing happening in it. It was there's all these different characters. You're getting their backstory, and the whole vibe of it. It was just. There was a crate in a university under the stairs that they found when they broke this thing open. And it had a big monkey man living in it, who just must have sat there, what did they say, since the 70s, early 70s?
From the 30s.
Oh, 30s.
Yeah.
So he was a supernatural ape that didn't have to eat people, but as soon as they let him out, he starts attacking people and then... Convoluted story of this guy who goes and helps his other professor out, cleans it up, lures his wife in there because he doesn't like his wife, and she gets eaten. And it's just oh my god,
Well, see, I feel that he could have just at some point, rather than because obviously we knew from the very beginning that he was going to feed this thing to his wife.
Yeah,
she was just horrible
because they made her so obviously everyone hated her and she was so horrible. So you knew that from the start. The instant.
Yeah. But there's this point afterwards. So not only does he go there and he cleans everything up, which he really didn't need to do. He changed the crate up, loads it into his car, takes it to a quarry and dumps it in a quarry. And I'm like, why wouldn't you have just put the lock on it and then close the little
There were lots of why didn't you? Why didn't they just call the police the first time it attacked someone? Why didn't they do anything? But what I did like was the bite effects looked amazing in this when the monster bit them and it ripped off their throats and shit. The monster attacks were wicked. They just gone.
Oh yeah.
So if anything, they needed less story in this one and just some more monster attacks. Just had it that it was just a monster stalking people. It was fine.
Pretty much. Yeah, there was because I found that there wasn't even a lot of because they famously named this creature Fluffy, which I love. But they didn't I felt it should have been in it a little bit more. It's the fact that he's banging on a thing and he's like, "Oi, wake up!" And he doesn't even come from the crate. He's somewhere else and then attacks.
Yeah.
Why? So why went?
Why did they assume he'd always go back to the crate?
Yeah, there was a lot of questions and and I don't like asking questions through a movie that I'm watching. Why don't you do this?
Did you notice that there were no young actors in this at all? There's heaps of old people. And then the last one involves a very old man and he's basically, what was that famous person who went crazy, germophobic and
Howard Hughes.
He basically Howard Hughes himself, yeah. He buys an apartment, it's all white, he's germophobic. And this was my favourite one.
Yeah.
There was so much effort put into this. So it's about bugs start, he sees a cockroach in his germ-free house and as it goes on and on, more and more bugs come out. And they're all real bugs. And there's a bit in it where there's so many bugs at one stage. And I was just this looks great. This is the perfect one. It was the right length. It had a good story. It made sense. The acting wasn't bad. Except for that dude, there was the dude, the guy that came to his house to fix and he had the weird jive talk and stuff, and I was like, And they made a really racist remark there as well. Did you notice that?
Yeah, they did. It's very 1982, so it's coming off a lot of shit's happening. It's I think it was set in New York, so a lot of the rolling blackouts, and it was not a great time to be around in New York in the 80s, the late 70s, early 80s. But yeah, this one hit hard for me because I lived in a house that had a roach problem because the people next door were hoarders.
Ooh.
So you'd walk into the kitchen in the middle of the night to grab a drink and you turn on the light and then all of a sudden, there's 10 roaches that just disappear. And you're like, where the fuck did they go?
Roaches?
And you can bomb your house. I'm a pretty clean person.
You can bomb your house, but they'll die. But then they'll come in from the outside.
Yeah, so this one was like, he's running around, he's freaking the fuck out. He's running around, he's like, trying he goes into this room which is basically an airtight, like, I'll see if you can get in here
Like a
now.
safe room, yeah. Like a panic room.
And they're all in there and just
Yeah, and
like he rips off the bed and they just engulf him. Ugh.
and they're like,
Yeah.
and how do you get that many cockroaches? They were all real. The bits where they're coming out the sinks and like thing, it was just millions. I suppose it's probably easier to breed cockroaches. I have no idea. I've never tried. But and then like the whole room fills up because it's a glass room and that looks wicked. And then the next day you just see him there lying there and you're like, oh, maybe he was because they give you the idea that he might be hallucinating as well. Did you get that?
Yeah.
So
There was a couple of things that were being sort of said here and there, and you're like, oh, maybe
is it
it's just
really happening? And then the next day it just shows him there's no bugs in there. You're like, oh, he was hallucinating. And then suddenly they burst out of him. And my word, did that look great.
Oh, that looked great. I'd like to point out that this segment was the most expensive to film because every roach cost 50 cents. They spent $120,000 on cockroaches to film this segment.
Oh my god, I love that. I didn't know that. I mean, this film's budget was 8 mil and it made 21 million, which is a massive win. That's all. If you double your money, I always find that a massive win. I don't know what constitutes as a massive win for a box office. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what if they'd be happy with that, but
I'd be happy with that.
I mean, if you make a film for 8 million and then it makes 21 million, you can make 2 more films after that. That seems like a win.
But do you like this film also has like such a high cult status? Like everyone still talks about it now, references it now, where all these other films that have come and gone that might have the same kind of effect, they're nowhere to be seen and nowhere to be discussed. Like, but this film is a staple. I like that.
And then
did you notice as well that the Creepshow opening title theme was very similar to Night of the Creeps opening scene?
I didn't notice that.
Nah.
And then it ends obviously with the kid. He Tom Savini leaves the garbage man. The dad's throwing out the comic, and like Tom Savini finds out he plays the garbage man. He's like, oh look, someone sent away for this voodoo doll like already, and then the cutaway, in the old comics where you cut it and send out for them, like, and then it just shows the kid voodoo dolling his dad, which I thought was a bit mean.
Well, I mean, the dad kind of beat him up a little bit just for reading a comic book.
That is true. His dad was a complete fucking
deserved it. He really was. Did you notice, though, that there was a reoccurring theme throughout the whole film was the little cigarette ashtray that the lady used in Father's Day to beat her dad to death was in every single segment.
Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, man, they wear as Wally to me and I didn't even notice.
Little Easter egg for you. There was a couple of points where I'm like, I like that.
Oh,
yeah, cool.
Nice. Good one.
Good little thing.
I didn't catch that. I did watch because I was lacking in time this week. I didn't watch anything all the way through, and you have that advantage with an anthology that you can just watch a couple of them at a time and then go do some work and stuff. What did you give it, Jen?
I gave this a C. It's a classic that everyone should watch. I think it might not stand up to some other films now in regards to storytelling but fuck it. This film's great.
I reckon it was wicked. Like just alone, the creativity of like the lighting in the comics is enough. I also gave it a C.
Damn right. Movie of the week, I reckon. But
indeed,
we haven't talked about the others. Who knows?
Nah. All right, what's next?
Okay.
What was the next one? Tales from the Darkside, the movie. Not to be confused with Tales of the Darkside, the TV show.
Correct.
Which I can't ever remember watching. I remember it being there, but like if you asked me any of the stories, I couldn't remember. Can you remember it?
No, I can't remember. Every time I think of it, I'm trying to think. I think of Gary Larson did like a Tales from the Darkside, and that was animated, but completely different. So that's where my mind goes.
Yeah, this is from 1990. Screenplay, a whole bunch of people. Romero, Stephen King, kind of the same as it's kind of like I think they were trying to go for a modern Creepshow. When I say modern, this is like how many years later is this from Creepshow 1? So when was Creepshow? That was 1982. So you're looking like 8 years later, kind of thing.
Yeah.
They were trying to rejuvenate. They got a bit of cool stuff happening, and they were trying to bring it up. This one was like, I mean, they didn't put hardly as much money into this one as the first one. They only put 3.5 mil into this, and it only made back 16.3, which is still heaps more.
Yeah, it's still quite a lot of money, and I put a lot of that down to the draw card, which is the cast. Like
Yeah.
Debbie Harry's in it, Christian Slater, Steve Buscemi, Julianne Moore, all these people who are like super big name people nowadays as well. Like,
But were they at the time? And I mean, Christian Slater was definitely up there. So the opening of this one, the what do you call it? The wraparound story?
Yes. Well, first synopsis, tagline and synopsis.
Oh yes. Go.
From the depth of 4 twisted minds. The first segment features an animated mummy stalking select student victims. The second tale tells the story of a cat from hell who cannot be killed and leaves a trail of victims behind it. The third story is about a man who witnesses a bizarre killing and promises to never tell what he saw. And the in-between bit is the story of a woman preparing to cook her newspaper boy for supper.
Because they counted the overstory, the wraparound story, as a story.
Yeah, I like that. I hated that part. Mostly because the ending pissed me off, but that's just me.
Yeah, so Deborah Harry plays the woman who's like, so she's Blondie from, from Blondie.
From Blondie.
And she's in Videodrome as well. She plays the woman, and she must be the dumbest woman ever. Like, dumbest person. Like, she just, did you get her, like, she was just stupid? Like, she's like clearly done this a lot of times. She cooks these children. She's like worked it all out. She's a rich lady, but she's just like, falls for the dumbest stuff. Like, just keeps on like, he's like, how about I read you a story? And she goes, well, I do love stories. I'm like, what do you mean you love stories?
Yeah, I do like a story. But I like a romantic story. Well, this one has heaps of let me just tell you another story.
Oh, okay. Like, she was, okay. It was so wafer thin that I was just like, oh God, just get to the stories. I hated it so much, that the wraparound. So the first one was called Lot 429. 249. Dyslexia. This is where they used all their actors in this one. So this is where Christian Slater was in. This was Steve Buscemi. This was Julianne Moore, who plays the best Boston lady in 30 Rock, Jack's girlfriend.
Yes, she does. Yep.
And this is, and I don't know. What do you think? It was about a mummy.
Yeah. So basically, Steve Buscemi is a poor student at this highly, what's the word?
Prestigious
and competitive is the word I was looking for. School. So he's very poor. Christian Slater and his sister Julianne Moore are obviously very rich. I never see Christian Slater as anyone who is rich. He seems just dirty to me. And
he talks like this. Yeah, whatever, man. And his eyes, he's never quite awake. He looks like he's a cat.
No. Yeah, pretty much. So Steve Buscemi brings in this Lot 249, which is a mummy, because
it's Lot 249 as it's a crate. So he's got it on an auction kind of thing. Yeah.
So he's basically bought this mummy, and inside the mummy there is a scroll that he reads and brings the mummy to life, and it goes off and kills the people that do him wrong, which would be Julianne Moore and her boyfriend, and
because they fucked him over. They like made up a story about him that he's like, done something bad, and so he's going to get kicked out of school. So they're like getting rid of like the poor people that could be competition to them because they're smart.
Yeah, pretty much. This had very little substance to it, I find, because
it was rubbish.
The mummy design looked kind of cool, and it just became kind of comical when Christian Slater is just delimbing it with a bread knife, an electronic bread knife.
Yeah, and like it's like the mummy. They go into how a mummy gets made. Like your brains get pulled out of your nose. They stuff you with flowers and herbs and stuff like that. And for some reason, when the mummy kills people, it does that to them. I'm like, why would a mummy do that? I'm not trying to make other mummies.
In the end, so Christian Slater is upset that his sister and best friend have been killed at the hands of Steve Buscemi's mummy. So he decides to tie him up and basically destroy his master's thesis and destroy the mummy and make sure he leaves the school forever. Of course, Steve Buscemi leaves, and he's sitting in the taxi there afterwards having a big old giggle, and the guy's like, what the fuck are you laughing at? And he's like, oh, this guy, he couldn't even decipher and differentiate between some weird fucking thing and some other weird fucking thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the mummy, his sister and best friend rock up at his door as mummies.
The end. Yawn.
The end.
Because the gore wasn't even, I found it wasn't even that good in this one. There was hardly any gore. I was also like, like I cut down the side, or you're going to pull the brain out of someone. It doesn't show any of it.
No.
I found a lot of these anthologies suffered from cutaway, where something's about to happen, you didn't see it happen, and then you saw the aftermath. Like the crucial gore shots that would have been like the money-making shots were all taken out, and you can see why this was only $3.5 million to make this one compared to the other ones.
Most definitely. I feel that this is the kind of film that you would have watched as a kid. Like, I probably would have seen this as a child, because there is absolutely nothing in this film, until we get to the last story, of course, which has anything graphic to it.
Yeah, the last story is the only one that had gore in it. And my word.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we're going to get ahead of ourselves. The second one, The Cat from Hell, it was called.
I hated this one.
So did I.
I laughed.
It's coming from someone who loves cats. Like,
it's true.
It did have like the one, which is really weird, because it has the one scene that always makes me laugh in a film is when a cat is stuck to someone's face.
I did laugh at that for quite a long time. It was hilarious.
So yeah, the storyline is this old man has hired a hitman to take out a cat, which he believes has killed his entire family up until this point. Which it goes back and shows, like in the most boring fucking ways it kills people. It runs under their legs as they're walking down the stairs, and I'm like, at least make it like run under your legs and they fall into a sword or something. Like something gory.
It's true, but to be fair, my cat has run under my feet while I've been walking down the stairs, and I have fallen down the stairs.
Yeah, but that doesn't make...
That's the reality.
Yeah, that's boring. I want it to be something amazing. And then the second way it kills someone is it just it flomps onto their face while they're asleep and grabs them and basically like suffocates them with its dick, because its dick was right on your mouth.
Pretty much, yeah. That's how she suffocated. It wasn't the cat itself. It was cat dick.
Yeah, cat dick. Dies from cat dick asphyxiation.
Yep.
You don't want that on your tombstone, eh? Died with cat dick in its mouth. And that was a hilarious scene. It looked like the fakest thing you've ever seen. It was just a fake cat stuck to someone's face as they were running around a room, which I will add is one of my favourite comedy tropes. But in this, I was just like, nah. I can't even remember how it killed someone else. Did it kill anyone else, or was that it?
No, it was those two ways, and then it kills the guy. So the hitman is there, and the cat comes along and basically is like, surprise, motherfucker, and attacks him. Ends up basically jumping into his mouth.
No, you have to first, before that, it fucking rips his balls off. The cat flies at him, and just grabs his crutch and rips his dick off. You forgot about that. But then the cat's death that he does to this guy was great. The cat runs at him and flies into his mouth, and then proceeds to shimmy its way down the guy's throat, and it looked fucking gross. And I was like, this is a great scene, but like, I don't want to watch. It was like 20 minutes of boring shit to get to this one shot, and that's what all these these were. These were all just one idea that they just written a couple of things around, and I'm like, I suppose that's just what an anthology is.
But even then, so like, this cat is just, and you think that that's it, the story's ended, like the hitman's dead, the cat's in his body, okay, but then comes wheeling in old mate, and the cat.
The guy who hired him, yeah.
Yeah, old mate. And the clock strikes midnight. There's this whole thing about every night at midnight it kills one of the people in this house, and the cat just climbs very slowly out of the man, and then attacks him, and he has a heart attack and dies.
He basically jumps on his lap and just goes, after like when it exits a man, it's pretty funny because I've just pushed this wet cat out of this rubber dummy's face. Poor wet cat.
I did have fun with that. There was a very small, finite amount in that I enjoyed, and that was just the poor cat being a poor cat.
Yeah.
But the rest of it was pretty garbage.
This was done in the times where they don't give a fuck about animals in films. And then the last one was Lover's Vow. Now this was the most
fucking stupid,
long-winded fucking story I'd ever heard about a jaded artist, and who the fuck knows what's going on. He gets drunk, and then his mate is attacked by a gargoyle. And the gargoyle comes down and goes, "Hey, mate." Fucking talks to him and goes like, "Oh, I won't kill you if you never, ever, ever mention me ever again." And then flies off. And I'm like, what? I mean, don't get me wrong. When the guy, this is the only one that had gore in it, basically. I mean, the gore was, like the slash marks looked really good. Like it lobbed the dude's head off. That was a bit of like,
yeah, that was good.
But it was so fucking boring. And then he meets a girl on the way home, and suddenly there's a sex scene.
Yeah, like you literally just met.
Yeah, he'd met this. He's just like, get off the street. It's not safe. Quick, come to my house. Then it goes sex scene, and then it goes 10 years later. They're just married with a kid. I'm like, what?
Yes.
His life's going great,
Yep. He's back on top. He's no longer a struggling, jaded artist. He's a super happy artist.
With a family of 2 kids and a beautiful wife. And I was like, ah.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden, so 10 years later, all of a sudden, what does he do? Jen.
Well, he sits down and he's like, well, I've told you everything. You've given me 10 years of happiness. I love you. You're the light of my life. Here's this gargoyle that I saw the night that we met. And
he's made a sculpture of it.
Which looked really good. And he's like, so I promised that I wouldn't tell anyone that I saw it.
No, he goes, I promised the gargoyle that I wouldn't, I wouldn't tell anyone. And then she said what I said. Why are you telling me this then?
Uh-huh. Yes. And then she's like, you promised you wouldn't tell, and proceeds to turn into the gargoyle.
She was the gargoyle all along. She just wanted happiness. I thought her transformation was very cool.
Yes.
It was kind of sickening, like her skin rips off and this gargoyle rips out from inside of her. But then the clencher was that, you were never supposed to tell, is that his children also turn into gargoyles because they're the offspring of gargoyles. So he's got tiny gargoyle children, and then it kills him, and then they go back up onto the roof and turn back to stone. And I'm like, what? Why did they unturn to stone in the first place? What gave the gargoyle the opportunity to do that?
I don't know. They didn't tell me, and I don't like that. Why?
Yeah.
There are too many questions.
So, and then, obviously, the end, that was the end of that one. I was like, all right, whatever. That was a waste. That one went for like, it felt like 40 minutes, that one, wasn't it?
It was long. It was.
Yeah, and that was long and boring. So, basically, this whole 2-hour film has like it only has 2 shots worth watching, basically. It has 3. It has the cat jumping into the mouth, it has the gargoyle killing scene, and then it has the transformation of her at the end. And, that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
That wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. That wasn't enough.
And then, of course, we go to the end wraparound. So this kid has been distracting Debbie Harry from cooking him by telling her all these stories. He then proceeds to basically start telling the story about how he, a child, escapes the witch, Debbie Harry, and then basically escapes and pushes her into the oven, and that was the end of that chapter.
The whole thing was a homage to Hansel and Gretel. Like, she lured him in, remember, with cookies and fed him cookies to fatten him up, and then she gets kicked into the oven just like the witch, and he bails out. Which I was like, boring.
I know, it's so stupid. She's a witch. She's been doing this for years and years and years, and she's foiled by a small child.
Well, she was the dumbest person in the entire world. How's she done it up to that point? I don't even know. Anyhow, what did you give this?
I gave this a W for whatever.
I also gave it a what for whatever. Meh. And this is our sound. That's what it gets. Anyhow, moving on. Third film, Scare Package, 2019.
Yes.
Was it 2020?
So it sort of came out this year. It came out, I think it was like made last year, came out this year kind of thing. So I really wanted to watch this one because I'd heard some good things, and obviously because Shudder has become available in Australia in the last couple of months, I kind of wanted to watch something from Shudder. And it was not disappointing.
You loved it.
I did love it.
I did not. I was over anthologies by this time.
Well, to be fair, this was the first one I watched.
That might have been a bit better idea. I wanted to save. It looked like it was going to be the best one, so I saved this one till last.
Yeah. All right.
So the wraparound story is called Cold Opener.
Yes. Well, hang on.
Whoa.
Tagline and synopsis. 7 directors, 7 tales of terror, 0 working cell phones. Chad Buckley is a horror aficionado and he's lonely. Chad spends his days at his struggling genre video store arguing with his only regular customer, Sam. When an unsuspecting applicant shows up, Chad begins to teach him about the rules of horror and his video store at large, much to the chagrin of Sam. During Chad's onboarding process, we weave in and out of different hilarious horror stories, each one geared at a different set of horror tropes. As this new applicant learns the ropes, he begins to suspect Chad of something sinister, but we quickly learn that he may have a secret of his own.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the whole fucking story.
That's it, like the wraparound. But it's weird because, like, the wraparound story isn't the first story.
No.
Which really threw me, and I didn't know what the fuck was going on, eh? Like, when this cold opener one, like, I had no idea what was happening. It goes full meta. It's the characters are like breaking character. They know what they are. They know they're in a horror film. They're not the main characters, and so he's the character that sets up. What is it like? The things in horror films. So he's the one who like gets to the cursed item.
Sells you the house. Yeah. He sells you the Amityville house. He's the one that cuts the power, and he's not the main guy, but he's the crux of what's happening. So the fact that it starts with this group of teens, he comes up to this sign, and it's like camping ground or spooky insane asylum.
No, yeah.
And the sign's sort of ajar, and he's like, oh shit, and he's trying to like fix the sign so it's saying, don't go this way.
It's saying to go the wrong way, so they're going to go to the asylum instead of their camping ground.
He's like hitting it with a rock, and he's like, oh shit, and kind of just, it's very endearing, I thought. Very endearing. Runs off, and of course, like, hilarity ensues.
I found the quality of all of these stories, they were like skit comedy quality. They weren't They weren't film quality, if you know what I mean. They were kind of like, SNL, like, kind of skits. Like, they didn't quite have the polish that it needed. And it did a lot of the gore in this film suffer from that same thing that the crucial shot was missing. Did you notice?
I did, except
for they had a couple of really good crucial shots.
There was, I think... So, 7 stories, and I think the wraparound was quite good. The cold opener and One Time in the Woods. Everything else kind of just teetered into something didn't need to be there.
So did you count cold opener and The Night He Came Back Again as the same story?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, cool. So let's go through them. Cool. We've gone through cold opener. One Time in the Woods, the second story, was the best one, I thought.
This was the best one, hands down.
This was like pure tongue-in-cheek, pure comedy, stupid acting. It was just about a bunch of people camping, and they all die from all these like different kind of horror tropes. There's like a killer, there's body melt happening. There's like all this other shit happening. But yeah, it was just stupidity. Like at one point, someone throws a rock at someone and their head just explodes.
That was so good. And there's this bit where this guy, so this group of people, they're camping. He stepped in some goo. He's like, "Oh, I've stepped in goo." Some guy comes barreling out of the woods, and he's like, "You need to help me. I'm about to transform." And he starts transforming. He's like, "Oh, you gotta help! Like, stop! Like, Silver's gonna help me. It's gonna stop the transformation." And this guy basically handcuffs him for like, and he is in mid transformation. So he is basically this huge puddle of goo.
The skull. Yeah. He was a great character.
And I fucking loved it
Yeah.
because it turns out that the guy that's handcuffed him is like the Springwood slasher, and he's there to kill the people that he's gone camping with.
So you got,
And then, of course, you've got that guy now chasing these guys, and it becomes a Benny Hill skit, and then it's just so gory. And at one point, he's like, some guy gets impaled by an axe and falls down.
Yeah,
and then he's like, "Oh my God."
No, first they throw an axe at one stage because there's all this shit happening. It's just basically a massive excuse to do these like gross horror scenes. They throw an axe at someone and it misses someone, and this hiker just comes out of nowhere and it hits him in the dick.
Yeah.
So he gets axed to the dick, and then later on someone falls on the other side of the axe and gets their head lodged in the guy's dick.
And then because this is basically like a paper cut and a gallon of blood kind of gore.
And the main girl constantly has like blood just everything spraying into this one person's face constantly. I thought that was funny.
And then there's this one point where the guy that's this like half goop on the floor is like, "Hey, that guy's blood's getting into my blood. Stop it!" And I'm just like, still there. He's still this pile of goop. And then
he was even more goopy. He was like his skull, his eyes had fallen out. He's like, "My eyes are falling out."
This really like, because this was one film that I don't generally, I can't do films like you. I can't watch it, come back to it, watch it. I have to watch it in one go. This film was for me, I did watch it in I think two shots just because I was super busy. And so the cold opener, the first wraparound story where we're introduced to Chad, who looked like Joe Exotic, by the way. And then the one time in the woods. This was my introduction to this film. And it was so funny, and I walked away going, "This is hilarious. I love this. Like, nothing is going... Like, I cannot wait to see what else happens." And then I wait and see what else happens, and it's kind of a little bit downhill from there.
Yeah, it started like real strong and died. There was a bit in the one time in the woods as well where the guy's like, he runs into a stick and pierces his face, or whatever, and then the guy throws a rock at him and his head explodes. And then there's that camper guy that comes up and he falls over and he rips his legs off and beats him with his own legs.
Yep.
But the guy was just like so nonchalant about it. He's just like, "Oh no, my leg's ripped off. No, my other leg's ripped off. Oh no, he's beating me with my own legs." Like, it was just like...
It was very much like at one point when I first started watching this film, I'm like, this is going to be very kind of Tucker and Dale, isn't it? So
yeah.
I was okay with that. More of that.
And then there's the next one. It's called The Girl's Night Out of Body, and I thought it was really boring. Which one was it? That's the one with the candy?
Yeah. So Mister was next, the Mister.
Oh,
the werewolf one.
Let's write that one in there. Yeah, that one I just was...
Yeah, that one was completely meh.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what happened. Like,
it was about a guy that goes to a men's group, and then they end up being werewolves, and then he just shoots them, and then he goes home, and everyone congratulates him, and it's just like, okay, that wasn't very anything.
Yeah, there was no explanation to any of it, and I walked away just like,
Yeah, that was budget. That was almost that was Tales of the Darkside writing. That was terrible.
Yeah.
And then the next one was The Girl's Night Out of Body, and that was also boring as well. It's just a girl steals a lolly, they lick it, and then they get a skull on their face, and then they dance.
The end.
And I was like, fuck this shit. So you lost me. You've done 2 shitties in a row. Then they did The Night He Came Back Again, which is basically a massive homage to Halloween.
Yeah.
which is like the girl, and but they capture obviously Michael Myers, which is not Michael Myers. He's just another dude I can't remember. And this is the whole thing of them trying to kill him. They've already got him
Yeah.
tied up, but because he's one of those unkillables, they just keep like chopping bits off and doing this and that, stuffing him with fireworks. And in the end, they basically had to like put him through a fucking a wood chipper, turn him to paste. He still fucking comes back.
But so what I really liked about that one is that one was also very gory. It was also very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But because it had all the tropes, so it had the guy that was like hopelessly in love with her, and she just couldn't see him for him being in love with her. And then at one point, like, they pull off the mask of the killer, and he just gives her this look, and he's like, "Are you serious? Come on. This guy, he's been trying to kill you. You're into this guy." And he's just like,
and she waits like long enough for him to get killed, and then she shoots him. Like,
yeah, I quite enjoyed this one. This one was quite amusing as well. I found it had the gore, it had the just everything I wanted. Like, just a lot of people being blown up and tortured.
Each one of these stories was a massive like nod to a certain genre of horror. Just some of them didn't really pull it off, if you know what I mean. Like, but I like the idea that these are clearly, whoever's writing these or whoever did this, like, was really going into like, they love horror. They think they know the rules. I mean, they probably do, but like, they know what they're talking about, and they wanted to make this thing. I mean, the wraparound story of like the video shop guy and like how annoying they are and how gross they are. And there's a bit later on where that he goes into that story and the character says like, "You are," like, they know they're in a horror film, and he's like, "You are the amalgamation of a horror movie like online critic." And that's what he was. Yep. And I really enjoyed that because, like, you are. You're a fucking fanboy, and I hate you. And both those characters I hated so much. Because like one of them, like, it was like Joey Exotic, and the other one was just like so many of my customers at work.
It's same. Yeah, it kind of, it hurt me a little bit because it not only did it take me back to my Blockbuster days, but it also sort of reminds me of what I do and where I work and the people I interact with. So it hurt me a little bit. But it's also, you got to laugh about it.
But yeah, I thought the night he came back again was worth watching. Yeah. Was it the second best one? Then this next one was like, what the fuck is this even doing in it? So much to do. About a guy who just gets turned to mist and then basically possesses a lady, and then she basically has the Fight Club fight with herself, and that's it.
See, I didn't even remember that one.
Yeah, exactly. She Fight Clubs herself, like fights herself, gets him out, the end. And I'm like, could have just, this film would have like greatly been better without this in it. It wouldn't have run as long. It didn't need it. I reckon they could have cut out the Girls' Night Out one, the werewolf one, and So Much to Do, and it would have been a better film. I
think so. But I mean, I like to think that a lot of the people that were involved in writing this film, because like when, we read out the actors, we read out the director. This one had so many people involved in the writing, the directing, that we would have sat here forever just listening off all people. But watching this film, I'm kind of really excited to see the people that are now working in the industry that are like coming up with this stuff, because I feel that even though this film started out super strong, then just took a real big dive bomb and then kind of came back to it at the end, it's good to see that these people are going to be doing great things as time goes on.
Are these people that what it felt like, Roz? There's these people who love fucking horror. They love film, and they got a whole bunch of their like, people to work on these things for them, and a whole bunch of maybe their idols were in it, and it felt like that they couldn't bear to cut any of them out, no matter how bad they were.
Yeah,
because they'd organised it all. They'd promised people that it'd be in there, and that's what it felt like. Because there was stuff that was like such low quality and stuff that was like quite fun and funny, and it just was so bridging that I feel like, they made too many promises of like, that'll be in there, and they had to put it in there kind of thing.
So it's kind of like a film competition, like a student film competition, and these ones were the best of the best.
Yeah, I felt like this was it felt like a horror school where you had to make a film and they had to choose 7 films no matter what, and these were just, you know, clearly there's like 3 standouts, but we had to have 7 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So and then there's these other ones, and let's mix it up in there so not all the shit ones are at the end, you know?
Yeah.
Or at the start kind of thing. And maybe that's what it was. Man, I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. Well, who knows? I mean, I liked it. And I think the fact that the first, like I say, the first segments are really good and the middle is just a bit lacking, but then it ends quite strong for me.
Well, if you can watch it and skip the ones you don't like, it's great.
Well, that's what I would, because I 100%, like I was texting Liz at that point going, oh my God, this movie is so fucking funny. I need you to, like, I'm going to stop watching it. I need you to watch it with me. She didn't end up watching it, but it's something that I will definitely be like, oh, you got to check this out.
And you're going to skip the ones, aren't you? You don't like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I reckon it will be, as I said, it will be a more powerful film if you just didn't have those ones in it.
Yeah.
And then the last one is called Horror Hypothesis. And I thought this one had the second best gore in it, because the best gore was like One Time in the Woods, but this one had a lot. And this is the amalgamation of all the overarching stories kind of coming together. And you know, the video shop guy, the Mike guy, was Mike in this one?
Yes.
Yeah, he was at the end, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. All comes together at the end, kind of thing. And it was okay, this one. This was probably, you know, it was okay. What did you think of the last one? It was your classic, like, just slasher, stalker, bunch of people trying to escape. But one of the characters knows he's in a horror film, so he's just like, hey, you're the slut. You're this. Yeah. You're that. Which, coming out of Cabin in the Woods last week, I'm like, see, we had just watched the best version of this ever.
Yes, pretty much.
It was just unfortunate for this film that we just watched Cabin in the Woods, which has that metaverse of horror tropes in it and pointing it out kind of thing.
I mean, it was really strange because the little guy that he'd hired for his video shop ended up being a scientist who took him to a location where they were all scientists who were sort of working out the statistics and the science behind slashes. So they get this woman on a treadmill and they've got this guy like following her, and it's like, okay, just start running a little bit faster. And every time she'd run that little bit faster, she'd just fall over.
Yeah, she'd get to a certain distance, a theoretical away from him, and she'd fall over no matter what, like, because she's in a horror film. She can't not fall over. And they had the bit as well, like, a car won't start unless the antagonist is like 14 feet away from it and shit like that. And I mean, and it was a research facility to document the real world horror tropes and stuff. And I got that was kind of cool. And it still was a bit ham fisted and a bit try hardy.
Of course it was.
You know what I mean? Like,
but I loved it.
And then of course you got the guy in it who's like Chad from the video shop, and he's a horror enthusiast. And then you get fucking Joe Bob Briggs shows up. Yeah,
which is really cool. Like, I mean, everyone loves Joe Bob, so that was because I thought very early on in the film, I was like, this is like paying pretty big homage to Joe Bob. Like the way Chad was dressed and the video store emporium had that kind of Joe Bob logo feel.
But people don't know who Joe Bob is. Explain him.
Okay, so
because there would be people who don't know who he is. I only learned about him recently, so.
Yeah. So he's basically a horror host, kind of like Elvira, but
he's the male version.
He's a cowboy. So he hosts all these films. He does a lot of it on Shudder now. I think it's Shudder. I want to say Shudder. But yeah, so he hosts all these films, which is really cool. So that's just who he is. And for most people in the horror community, they know who he is and enjoy his shows. We don't really get them here. Like, there's never been anything that you can sort of watch them on here. But now that we've got more access to other things, we can now finally start to get into it. So.
All right.
Yeah.
So, And yeah, he's in it, and he goes through all the he goes through. I thought this one dragged on a little bit, like
It did.
it just kept going and going and going because they had more to say about it because they know more about horror than we do. Like,
Yep.
and it got a bit like, even though they had a character in it that was supposed to be the
Mm-hmm.
amalgamation of a horror fucking know-it-all, the film to me screamed that it was a horror know-it-all. Or maybe it was supposed to do that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I just
Maybe.
don't get it. Maybe I just
Maybe
like
it's
traditional
so
horror.
meta. Maybe.
Yeah, I never was supposed to use the word meta, but yeah.
Whatever.
Anyhow, what did you give it?
So I gave it a J. I think it is a Gen special. Like I say, it's got a lot of really high key points that make watching the rest of it worth it. So yeah.
I also gave it a J for a Gen special. I was watching it, I'm like, I bet she's gonna love this, and I scrolled down your notes and was like, I fucking love this. So, and your sound is this.
Now it's time for the fun part.
Which was, Jen can't hear, but it was that bit from that. What was that horror movie you watched? And it had the guy killing girls, and then he breaks into a song.
Oh.
That's just
Okay.
recently. It was not Prom Night 2. It was the other one.
Oh, Slumber Party Massacre 2?
Yeah. It's his song just played then.
Yes.
Yes. Let's move on. What are we moving on to?
Alright.
We're moving on to horror news. Yes, each week me and Jen take you through the horror news that you need to know about. Welcome to horror news.
Now, please tell me you are practicing that in the mirror at night, right?
It's only when I transform into a werewolf, so I only get to do it every full moon. So
yeah, okay. No, well, you're getting better, and I love it. I love it so much. So, well, guys, Scream Watch 2020.
Scream
Fuck
Watch.
Yeah. It's been a big week, guys. Neve Campbell, she's back. Okay, we knew it was going to happen, but she's back. It's official. We're very excited by this.
We are. I'm trying to find a scream sound effect really quickly. Oh, here we go. Scream. Oh my god, that was loud. Okay, there. Scream Watch sound. Go.
Fantastic. So yes, Neve Campbell is back. We knew it was going to happen, but come on, guys, like, just let's be excited about this. So not only is Neve Campbell back, it's also been announced that Marley Shelton, who played Deputy Judy Hicks in Scream 4, is also back, which is exciting.
I'm just doing it because you can't hear the sound effect. Keep going.
Okay. It also looks like Matthew Lillard is hinting that Stu might still be alive.
Stu?
Yeah, so I feel that this was in the news not too long ago. But Matthew Lillard desperately wants to come back as Stu Marker, and I think there were some early fan theories that he's been in jail orchestrating this whole thing over the years. But, I mean, who knows what's going to happen.
Wasn't that one of our hit predictions earlier on?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't, because you only see him, I can't remember what happens to him. He gets stabbed a lot.
He gets a TV
that's right.
dumped on his head.
And that wouldn't kill you. That would just break your nose.
Possibly. I mean, it was one of those old 90s TVs, so those fuckers were heavy.
Yeah, but have you ever tried to break a TV screen?
I have not.
I have. They're really hard to break. And then they also like implode because they're all like vacuum sealed, so they go into themselves. So even if it did break, which I doubt it would have, I reckon it would implode in on itself. So he would have been fine. Well, not fine. He'd be fucked up.
He's pretty. You would be pretty fucked up. So I think a lot of what I'm hearing. I love forums. I like listening to people talk. I can never interact with them because people are rude pretty much straight away.
True.
But there's like this whole kind of conspiracy that, Dewey has known about this for the last 20-something years and has been hiding it from Sydney.
That he's still alive?
Well, yeah, because he's part of the police force. He would see autopsy reports. He'd probably see the autopsy.
Makes sense.
He'd know that they're dead.
It'd be
or
a good
not
reason
dead.
to bring Dewey back into it as well, because he'd kind of been
Yeah.
spent, his story.
Yes, pretty much. So this is definitely a very interesting sort of take, and I know that Matthew Lillard has been pretty upset lately because he was replaced as Shaggy in all of the Scooby-Doo movies that have happened. He's basically like, well, I'm still here. I did a really good job. Why didn't you bring me back? So
I watched Looney Tunes Back in Action or whatever it's called,
Oh, yeah.
and it's got like Shaggy talking to him like about the Scooby-Doo movie in it, like
Ah,
that actor.
okay.
Yeah, it was pretty
Yeah.
good.
Fantastic. So we'll see how this happens. So this week has been real good for some Scream Watch 2020. And
So do you think my theory of, remember my theory of Scream Cabal, of Ghostface Cabal?
Mhm,
Do you reckon that
yes.
might be it? That he's running like a Ghostface Cabal and he's like teaching these other Scream, like all the ones that have been in the other ones, that he's like pushing them out into the world.
He's been like this Ghostface puppet master from
Yeah.
a jail cell. Yeah.
Oh, Scream Cabal.
Yeah. Yeah. You're playing your sound bites again, aren't you?
Yep.
Fantastic. No, like I'm super excited for this. Like every time there is something new, even if it's just something small, it's exciting. It's super exciting for me. Like I cannot wait. And I think there has only been a little bit of negativity from people, but hey, you're always going to get negativity from people.
Oh yeah, the internet's given everyone a voice and they choose to be as negative as they fucking possibly can.
It's true. But I am so excited for this. Like I cannot wait, and every time something happens, I am looking forward to talking about it.
That's sick. I'm excited.
Heck yeah. You're excited. Whew, me too.
What's next?
So it looks like Candyman has been pulled from October release and indefinitely delayed until 2021. No, guys, we were meant to have some horror this year.
Yeah, at least a little bit. Now, is this a reboot or a remake or just a spiritual sequel? Oh, here we go.
So I want to say it is a bit of a remake. I'm going to say reboot because Tony Todd is in it and he is reprising his role as a Candyman, not necessarily the Candyman.
Oh, there's a Candyman cabal?
Quite possibly.
There must be.
Yes, who knows? We will soon find out. So yeah, it was in Nia DaCosta who has directed this. She's basically sort of stated this is a film that is meant to be enjoyed in the theaters. You have to experience this in the theaters. It's not something that we can put straight on video to demand and you can watch it at home with 10 of your mates having a big old chat.
Oh, no beer and chicken wings, she reckons? We have to put on our film glasses for this and our opinions.
I'm gonna have my Lenny face, so that Lenny at the Oscars with the hands poised and looking really pensive. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the Candyman series. For me, it was just one that I never really got into.
Yeah, I didn't like it. Number one, I don't like being sticky, and there's honey in it.
Yep.
I don't like being sticky at all. I reckon if you covered me in honey, I would actually have a heart attack. I can't handle it. And the other thing is, I'm not into bees.
Uh-huh.
And I think a dude with a hook for a hand is really just fucking like just phoning in like monster. I mean, like, it's the same as like, I know what you did last summer. It's a dude in a fucking raincoat. I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Get something better.
Yeah. It's true. I don't know. I feel that Candyman was one of those films, because obviously I just went through this huge phase when I was like, from maybe about 10 onwards, that I was pretty much allowed to go to the video shop by myself. And my parents just didn't give a shit what I watched. So I was probably a bit too young to appreciate Candyman and understand fully what they were talking about. And I've just sort of never really revisited it since.
Yeah, because the if I remember it right, it's that you have to say Candyman in the mirror 5 times. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you always feel that 5 was a bit too many?
I'd get bored after 2.
Yeah. I mean, Beetlejuice was hard with 3.
Yeah.
Let her own fight. And there were so many scenes where it was just like, Candyman. 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 You're like, you're only fucking up to 3. Fucking hell. Like, seriously, half the Candyman movies, I bet there's people saying the word Candyman.
That's right.
If like 3 people have to, if 4 people have to die in that film, that's like 20 times you have to say Candyman to the mirror. Like,
pretty much. That's a lot of Candymans. But yeah, maybe I will give it another go at some point, but probably not anytime soon. But I am excited for this one. Obviously, Jordan Peele is producing it, and he's just done some amazing things with Us and Get Out, which we've yet to watch and talk about on this show. So who knows? That might be a future episode. But yeah, so 20. I think the new date is, well, it's an indefinite.
What's his quote here? I'm from producer Jordan Peele, who co-wrote the film with Win Rosenfeld.
Ooh.
Oh. All right.
Yes.
So I'm excited.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not excited. That's a lie. I'm excited for a new horror film. I just wish.
No, I'm excited. I'm excited. I feel that this could definitely hold my attention for the Candyman series. Probably not enough to make me go back and rewatch them, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm really glad that Tony Todd was offered to come back. I think anytime something's rebooted or remade and there's still the original, iconic actor, they do get a little bit upset when they're not invited to come back, even if it's just as a cameo. So
I mean, he looks great. There's a shot here from the film, and it actually looks really cool. It looks a very for some weird reason, it just reminded me of like 2001: Space Odyssey. A picture of him like in a circular hallway. It's very, very like what's that word? That Wes Anderson always does, like symmetrical. The shot, he's right in the middle. He's staring straight down the camera. He just looks wicked. He looks like he's aged really well into a sexy man.
That's not Tony Todd, but yeah.
Oh fuck. Is he alive?
That is the main actor whose name I don't know right now, and I apologize.
Did I just look like an idiot?
No, never.
Oh yeah, Tony Todd is a lot older. I'm an idiot.
Yes, that's fine. So yes, which this does lead us in a very nice segue into our next little bit of news, which isn't necessarily news, but it is a topic that was brought up on Popcorn Horror, home versus cinema, the horror experience. So this article basically discusses going to the movies versus enjoying a movie at home, and I thought this is a nice little talking point, because I personally love the cinema. It is one of my favorite and has always been one of my favorite things to do. But in the last, 10, 15 years, I hate going, because it's always so stressful as to what's going to happen.
What do you mean?
So I can't tell you the last time I've been to a movie, unless I am the only person in the cinema. There has not been a single time where there's not been someone who is on their phone, having a chat, like just not being considerate of everyone around you, and it pisses me off. And then I'm that person that will be like, "Hey guys, just how's about we put the phone away?" Or, "Hey guys, if you pull the phone out again, I'm going to throw it across this room." Hey guys. I terrified a group of girls one time. I got up and sat with them, and I'm like, "What are we talking about?"
I used to be like that, but as I've gotten older, I'm just so against confrontation. I just can't be fucked with it. That I just move a lot of the time if there's space to move. But I know what you mean. I love going to the cinema, but every time I go to the cinema, I suffer trailer envy. That whatever's in the trailer, I wish I was watching compared to what I'm watching.
Yeah, sure.
And then so I always say to my wife Claire, if we're in the cinema, and then I'll go through all the trailers, and if there's the movies that I know I'm so excited for, where I say at the start, there's nothing they could show in the trailer that I'll want to watch over this, and then I'm really excited. Like, Avengers Endgame. There wouldn't have been anything I wanted to see more than that at that time when it was coming on, if you know what I mean. Like, I was just like, this is going to be sick. And, that experience of having, I like the idea of having your mate there next year that, a wicked bit happens and you can hit them on the shoulder and shit and stuff like that. But a lot of the time cinemas are so loud these days that, like, you can't hear the people behind you and that. And I find most of the time the bit that annoys me, people don't seem to care. I see trailers as the film. Like, I want silence in the trailers, but a lot of people don't count that. They just count that. But most of the time when the actual film starts, 99% of people are going to put their phones away and watch the film because they've paid to come in and see it. There may be some fucking turkeys that, some 20-year-olds that are breaking up with their girlfriend at that time and they're like over text and they feel it's more important in the world. But you can just say, and it's just unfortunate. Hopefully you can just move away from them and just go somewhere else or just go, I'll just fucking stop. Or you always hope that their friends just tell them to stop doing it. Because I'm a fucking pussy and I wouldn't say anything to a fucking fly.
Well, see, I always do it in the most politely sadistic way. So, hey guys, please just stop. I will murder you. Stop it. But yeah, like, I totally get it because as I get older, I don't want the conflict. Whenever I hear people talking, because half the time I'm with Liz, and it's better that I get up and say something than Liz gets up and says something.
Yeah, she doesn't have she's got the subtlety of a sledgehammer, that girlfriend of yours.
God love her. So, I mean, look, I love
the food, though. I love candy bar. I love the idea of going to get my drinks and my popcorn. I love the idea that I'm going to sit down. It's going to be dark. It's going to be an experience. Like I was saying, like this, and like, I mean, if you really want it, go to Gold Class. It's like no one speaks in Gold Class. You get your own thing. You get fucking waiters. Gold Class to me is so rad. It's such a good idea. Like, I don't mind paying $50 to go see a film if I'm going to be waited on, and fucking bring me beer and chicken wings. Like, you actually can order beer and chicken wings, and like you're sitting next to there's two of you. You're sitting next to your girlfriend or your fucking partner, and you get to experience this thing. I love it, man. And like, I think Gold Class is one of the greatest things they ever invented.
It's true. I also get to put my feet up, which is great because I'm so old. My back and my knees, they start to hurt about halfway through. So I tend to fidget, and then it's just because I'm in pain. And then I've like try not to fidget because I don't want to disrupt everyone else around me with my constant moving.
Yeah.
But so the Gold Class is great because then I can just lay down and I'm comfortable the whole time.
Yeah, and they put effort in. And you get to go to that other room, and there's a bar in there and stuff, and you can get like a martini. I love Gold Class, and I love it when you get free Gold Class. That's the best.
Oh yeah.
Advanced screening Gold Class. And then you go in there and they've set up like a banquet and there's like, cupcakes for free and everything. That's when you know you've made it. I'm in the free Gold Class section.
Gold class.
Advanced screening.
Oh yeah. That's nice.
That's nice.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love watching a movie at home because I can sit there in my track pants and dropping food all down. I do that in the cinema anyway. It doesn't really matter. But you can sit and be gross at home and heavy breathing and just in your underwear if you want.
Or at home you can pause the film and you can go have like, a wee break. You can stop. You can even have like an IMD brief halfway through and have a little talk. And then so they've both got their pros and cons. I mean, at the moment, cinema's a piece of fucking shit. There's no there's no drive. The only thing that's really cool is the drive-in at the moment because of COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, and drive-in is another kettle of fish. That's fucking wicked. You get a good drive-in night, mate. And there's two types of really good drive-in nights. There's like go with your partner. You go there. You go in. Our one up the road's got like the old 50s diner. You get your hot dog. You sit down. You eat that. You go and watch the previews and that. You hang out, and then there's like your mates one when like 5 of you come in your car. You set all your cars up. You get your deck chairs out. It's warm weather. You put your stereos on so you can hear the thing, and you get to hang out with your friends and stuff. Like the drive-in, I can't believe the drive-ins aren't more popular. Like I remember when
they're becoming more popular.
Yeah, well they should because like they're fucking sick fun, and they're a thing that if drive-ins die, that's a fucking travesty. That is like a massive, important thing that should never go away. The drive-in is such an experience, and it's such an important thing of how films became to be. Like, you know, how many people would have been conceived in a drive-in? It's bring your date there. You can't have sexy times at the cinema. It's fucking gross. I've seen people having sexy times at the cinema. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Look, I've worked in a cinema, and the things that I've seen, no.
Cannot be unseen. But yeah, good point.
I miss the cinema. Yeah, it's a nice little thing. So I might post this one up on the Facebook page, and I'd like to hear some opinions, have some little interactions about this as well, because I think a few of you will have some strong opinions, and I love it.
Okay.
More of that, please.
Nice. So let's move on to our future homework, as in what we're doing next week. So I've chosen 2 films. We're going back to 2, as I mentioned earlier. Have you seen my films?
Oh, I love it.
Are you really? So I have chosen Gremlins 2.
Fantastic.
I love Gremlins 1. I just got a new Gremlins figure this week, actually. You know those ones where they're in the boxes and you can open up the front, and it's the... Actually, last week I wanted to do a mistake that I mentioned in our show. I actually called the gremlin, you know, the main gremlin in Gremlins 1, I called him Spike instead of Stripe.
Oh, no.
But I remember that after I'd done it. And it's Stripe.
Did you get a NECA figure?
What?
Was it NECA?
I'm not sure, but he comes with, he's quite big. He comes with, he looks crazy good. He comes with a skateboard and a chainsaw, which are 2 of my favorite things. There was also Hellraiser ones, Friday the 13th ones there as well. I'm
pretty certain. They seem like the NECA ones, but yeah.
Maybe. But aren't those NECA ones tiny?
No, they're about 7-inch.
I'm not sure, because the Gremlins are small anyway. There was a Chucky one.
Yeah.
But they've all got the boxes like the video covers. So like you open up the video and they're in there, and it's just the detail is amazing. There's a chainsaw. I love chainsaws. I used to have you would have loved this. Back when I was in my parents' house, Jen, I used to have a toy chainsaw collection of like 30 wicked chainsaws, and people just keep buying them for me because they knew I loved horror films. Yeah. And then obviously I love skateboarding. He's got the skateboard because, you know, Stripe does the skating bit in it, in the mall bit. And it's just such a good figure. I'm so happy with it. I'll send some photos that we can put up on the Facebook of it.
Yes, please.
You guys can see.
I feel that you and I both have quite the collection of interesting things. We should probably start like showing them off a little bit.
Yeah, we'll start posting up a couple of our collectibles and encourage our fans to post them up as well. Anyhow, Gremlins 2. I chose the second one because it is a very I think it's underrated. No one seems to like it, and I fucking love it. It's 100% different tone to the first film. It doesn't, but it makes sense. And that's what a lot of those monster movies don't do. Like, you know, it makes sense they're all in the building. It makes sense they can't leave until nighttime because it's light outside. It just goes ham with everything you could possibly put into a mini monster crittery flick. It does in there, and it's just so good. And then my other film I've chosen is the original Steven Spielberg's Poltergeist. Is it Steven Spielberg?
Nice. Yes, Toby Hooper and Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, Hooper, that was it. I was trying to remember the other guy. Not the remake that came out recently, which was okay. I'm just going to throw that. It was okay. Maybe I should have done that and that one. Double Poltergeist. Damn it. Doesn't matter. Gremlins 2 and Poltergeist. Watch them if you want to know what we're talking about. And do you want to do some housekeeping, Jan?
Yes, of course. So, thanks, guys. You've been listening to TerrorVision Horror Podcast with Dan and Jennifer. Our podcast is available on all streaming services, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, basically wherever good podcasts are found. We also are available on YouTube. Please leave us a star rating, give us a comment, give us a follow, thumbs up, anything and all of the positive stuff. We have an Instagram. You can follow us at TerrorVisionPod. We also have an email, which is terrorvisionpod@gmail.com. So if you've got any questions or comments or want us to watch something in particular, then just direct them that way. And we've also got Facebook, so please hit us up on Facebook as well. Everyone who's on there is really cool. Everyone interacts with everything, and yeah, good place to be.
Nice. And you can check out Hack the Dino. If you want to see a bit more of me, you can check out Hack the Dino, where you can catch us live over on Twitch every second Friday at 7 p.m. for casual hangs, chats about games, nerdism, and stupidity. It's basically a live video game variety show. Like Hey Hey It's Saturday, but with video games. And that's basic. And no Aussie Ostrich or Dickie Knee. I apologize. Oh, maybe I should get a Dickie Knee.
Can you? Yes, you need to.
Or some
You've
sort
said
of,
it. It's happening.
or some kind of puppet. Someone who just has to sit behind the couch the whole night and then just pop up every now and then to do their lines.
Everything is better with puppets. Actually, you should get a little Ashy Slashy puppet.
I'd have to make my own. Ashy Slashy was good though. But anyhow,
Yes, that's true.
until next week, may all your dreams be nightmares.